All right. Good morning. Hopefully everybody can hear me. I've been having some connectivity issues with my computer. I think that's why last week it just kind of shut off for some reason. My computer just goes dark on the internet for some reason after like 30 minutes, it seems like when I've been on Zooms. So I'm going to try something a little different today and hopefully we won't have any issues. Um, so hopefully you had a great weekend, had a good weekend. Today, we're going to cover some new laws coming into 2025 that realtors need to know about. We're not going to cover every one of them. I'm going to cover just a few of them. I'm sure everybody's been hearing about the one having to do with the buyer rep agreements. So we're going to go over that. I think there's a little bit of miscommunication or misinformation out there about that one. So we're going to cover that one and a couple others having to do with TDS law, a couple things that are, going to be added into basically the TDS or the SPQ. Nothing groundbreaking, but just a few things. And then a little bit on tenancy as well. And I know we don't do property management here, but it's good to know some of these things if you are managing your own property or if you're going to do any leasing for any of your clients. Um, it's good to know a few of these changes that are coming up. So I'd like to get started with just a little bit of news, and you might be feeling it, you might not be feeling it. So where we're at right now, I think we are all kind of expecting a much better, year three after the rates had climbed up so high so fast. And it seems like it's been about the same. Sales volume has continued to be low. Um, NAR report just came out, and new home sales are actually up about 1.5%. The um, Sorry, I had someone else logging in. So new home sales are actually up 1.5%, but existing home sales have definitely subsided, and they're basically at about 2010 lows. So if you're feeling a little bit of a pinch right now, we had a little bump about a month or so ago before the Fed dropped the rate half a point. We were actually seeing some pretty good interest rates, and then after they dropped it, actually the rates ended up going up, and they're back up close to the sevens now. I do expect them to start coming down again. That was kind of a little shock factor that happened. But it's really, I think that obviously the time of year sales do tend to kind of slow down a little bit for some of us. And then we've got an election year, a big election year. And, seems like a fair amount of the buyers, not a fair, but there's a percentage of buyers out there that are kind of holding off a little bit till after the election. I don't really know what that's going to change. Life is going to go on either way. So I'd be curious to see what you guys are hearing out there with, potential buyers and sellers that you're talking to. Are they holding off? What are their reasons? What are they saying to you? So throw that in the chat and let's see what everybody's kind of hearing out there in the market. And if they are feeling, if you're feeling a little bit of a slowdown as well. But I do think next year is going to be um, a great year. This year was a good year for us. It's been pretty steady the past few years, even with the interest rate hike and everything. So um, leading into that, with a lot of buyers kind of sitting on the fence right now, there's a fair amount of them that are ready. 38% of the population feels very prepared to purchase, but it seems like they're just kind of sitting on the fence a little bit, waiting for, again, election, interest rates, different things to happen. So I'd be super curious again to see what you're hearing out there. Why are your potential clients sitting on the fence right now? Because we've got 38% feel very prepared and 39% are somewhat prepared to purchase. And that's a pretty huge segment. And it seems like what I've noticed, because I get a lot of news about mortgage apps and are they up, are they down for the week and that kind of stuff. And it seems like every time there's a pretty good dip in the rates, we see this surge of mortgage applications all of a sudden. And definitely the past week or two, they've dipped down. That's been in the news, and obviously the home sales volume has dipped as we just saw. But you can see that there's so many people just waiting for like a certain little market factor to take place, and then they go ahead and make that leap right then. So, and this is a pretty huge segment, almost um, well, close to what 80% of the market here feels pretty good about being ready to purchase if the time was right. So, what are you doing to get prepared for that? Are you staying in front of these people? Are you continually talking to them, or is it just a casual conversation? And they're like, "Oh yeah, I feel ready, but I'm waiting for this or that." Um, or are you just kind of letting them go? Is it a casual conversation and then that's it? Because that's probably a potential buyer, especially from what I see, or a potential seller. Every time these rates just take a little bit of a dip, like we get a little surge. So I think it's really key right now to remain in contact with everybody that you're talking to that is like, yes, I'm waiting for this or I'm waiting for that, because they'll probably pull the trigger at any, find out what that trigger is for them and keep in contact with them. Put that information in your CRM. Um, After this meeting today, if you have a Coach 52 account, this is a free account that we give everybody here. Um, Jeff is doing he does this every year. He does a business planning session right about this time of year. This is really good to just pop in. It's a free coaching session. It's today after this meeting. If you want to go into your Coach 52 account and log in, you can watch him live, and he's going to go over his business planning session. Um, I believe he has an accountability session after that as well. But this is how you do it. Just go to coach52.com. You log in, go to menu, Coach 52 Live, and then boom, go live. If you need a Coach 52 account, send an email. You can send it right now if you want over to Roxanne, info@riserealtyca.com. Ask for a Coach 52 account. She'll get you set up, and you can go ahead and watch that business planning session with Jeff. So. Okay, so let's roll into the rumors. So I saw a couple, I call them viral videos or whatever, from realtors actually stating that there's not going to be any more buyer rep agreements because um, this law, this bill 2992 passed, which it did, but it absolutely does not mean that there are no more buyer rep agreements in California. And that's kind of how these videos were alluding to that. That's gone away. We don't have to do it now, or it's not gonna. We don't have to do it at time of touring the property and things like that. And it's actually not true. So for one thing, this law does not go into effect until January 1st. So as of right now, status quo. It's 1 to 4 units, residential sales. You have to have a compensation agreement. I'm not saying a buyer rep agreement, a compensation agreement in place with your client prior to touring the home. So nothing has changed there. That is the rules of the NAR settlement. And that's actually not going to change after January 1st either. So this 2992 requires buyer representation agreement to be executed between a buyer's agent and a buyer as soon as practical, but no later than the execution of the buyer's offer to purchase the property. But what you have to remember is if you are a MLS participant, that is who the NAR rules um, pertain to. So if you are a realtor, if you have MLS membership, Nothing is changing. You're still going to have to do it prior to touring the property, even after January 1st, 2025. So, um, and that's what we're talking about right here. MLS participants, 1 to 4 unit transactions must be entered into prior to touring a property when working with a buyer per the NAR settlement terms. What the California the 2992 is stating is basically everybody now has to have a buyer rep agreement in place as soon as practical. So we've gone from just MLS participants to everybody. If you're a licensee, even if you're not a realtor and you are not a MLS member, you will have to have a buyer rep agreement in place, not prior to touring the property, but prior to writing the offer. So this is going to pertain to a much more expansive type of property. It excludes leases and rental agreements, but the new law starting January 1st is going to apply towards real property improved 1 to 4 unit. So this is the same as now. Multi-unit residential property with more than 4 dwellings. So currently that's not a requirement. So this will be new. So prior to writing the offer, if you are going to do a 5 unit plus, you have to have a buyer rep agreement in place. Commercial property, that's new. Vacant land, that's new. Ground lease coupled with new improvements. A manufactured home or mobile home when offered for sale or sold through an agent pursuant to the authority contained in section, well, Business Professions Code right there. So the changes are that now it's required on even more properties. So even our commercial friends out there, the commercial real estate agents out there that are non-MLS members, things like that, they're going to have buyer rep agreements now. Vacant land, everything, you'll have to have a buyer rep agreement. But per the NAR rules, if you're an MLS participant, it has to be prior to touring the property. So nothing has changed with that. It's actually, I want to say California made this more stringent as to now it applies to essentially every licensee for most of the sales that we're going to be doing. Again, it does not apply to leases and rental agreements, the sale of state or federal land, loan brokering services. So when do you have to have the agreement in place? Buyer broker representation agreement shall be executed between a buyer's agent and a buyer as soon as practical, no later than the execution of the buyer's offer to purchase real property. So you'll want to have that, and then your RPA bundle, which is always going to start with your agency. So nothing's changed really, but basically this is law now. It's not just NAR, it's California law. 3-month limit, same as current. Buyer representation cannot last longer than 3 months from the date the agreement was made. You already see that on our forms right now. Renewals, buyer representation agreements shall not renew automatically. Any renewal shall be in writing and dated and signed by all parties to the agreement. Renewals cannot last longer than 3 months, same as, the original. Agency disclosure, same as current, has to be provided. So don't break up your zip form bundles, your RPA bundles or anything like that. They come with the extra advisories and the agency and all that stuff bundled in to that agreement. Just leave it the way it is. Don't break those apart and like exclude those. They're put together for a reason. Void and unenforceable. A buyer representation agreement that is made in violation of these provisions is void and unenforceable, meaning you may not earn your compensation for services. So be sure you're doing this correctly and the timeline matches up, because if your commission gets disputed and your timelines don't match up, or you wrote it for more than 3 months, or any of these other things I just covered, you could be out your commission. So be sure that you're following what the rules are and what the new law is. Licensing law violation. Any person licensed under real estate law who violates the provisions related to buyer representation agreements is deemed to have violated licensing law. So now this is not just an enforcement with MLS, which is where we have been for the past few months since the NAR settlement took place. Now it's licensing law. So you will definitely need to make sure that you have these in place because before, it's like, okay, well, how's the MLS going to, enforce these? Are going to be asking for buyer, everybody's buyer rep agreements and things like that? No, it was more stemmed upon, someone turning you in or something like that where they have to go and ask for it. So basically a complaint. Now, same thing. It could be, stemmed from a complaint to the DRE that you don't have a buyer rep agreement in place or that you didn't have a buyer rep agreement in place. But also the DRE does random audits. We've had 2 already this year of agents. So they will ask to see these documents and the timelines must be in order. You have to have that buyer rep agreement in place prior to the offer timeline. Um, Otherwise, you could be violating licensing law. I don't know. I didn't look to see how strict that was going to be as far as punishment. Could be a fine, could be revocation of license, could be suspension of license. I guess it depends on how serious it is, or how many times you've done it. Um, so essentially, after the first, the the buyer rep agreement law becomes much more strict, and now it's a law with the state of California, and it will affect your license. So be sure you're getting those signed as soon as practical, no later than the timeline of the signature on your offer. So it needs to be prior to that, just like your agency form is signed first. You want to have your buyer rep agreement signed first as well. So hopefully that's clear enough. I'll throw some questions in the chat. Obviously, this is a new law. I'm just relaying what this new law looks like. So let's go over a couple TDS changes, or actually TDS related changes. So a new one coming in, local requirements relating to replacement of gas-powered appliances, electrical system inspection. So this is going to start after January 1st, 2026. So as you know, California is trying to phase out gas appliances. Um, so essentially, after January 1st, 2026, a seller, if aware of the requirements, must disclose the existence of any state or local requirements relating to replacement of existing gas-powered appliances that are being transferred with the property. The disclosure must be made if either the seller or the agent is aware of these requirements. So this is putting it on you as well. So even if your client doesn't know, but you need to make it aware because that is a material fact that you know. The law also requires a statutory notice advising the buyer to obtain an inspection of the electrical system. I'm going to guess that we're going to get some sort of new form for that. This is a TDS related disclosure, which applies to the sale of 1 to 4 unit and mobile homes subject to all TDS applications, exemptions, and statutory termination of rights. The seller property questionnaire will be revised to meet this disclosure requirement. So they're going to update this. Could be on the next forms revision, could be in one of the other ones. They do those twice a year generally. For the purpose of this section, gas-powered appliances include, but not limited to, appliances fueled by natural or propane. So they're not distinguishing one or the other. If it's a gas-powered appliance, doesn't matter if there's a propane tank outside or if you're on city gas, that's going to apply. Exceptions, there's always exceptions, right? Probate, bankruptcy, foreclosure, REOs, certain trusts. So essentially, it's following TDS law, but this is going to be in addition to. So this is coming down the pipeline. Um, the other one that is going to be uh, a change to the TDS essentially. And this may or may not apply to your area, but seller's receipt of domestic water storage tank assistance. So there are some people out there who have received storage tank assistance, and there's going to be some disclosure for that now. And this one goes in after January 1st, 2025. So if you're in a rural area, one that's been stricken by drought or fires, and the property got some water storage tank assistance, this is when you'll need to know that. So, and this one's, I guess, going to be kind of a small, obscure, you know, one where it really doesn't apply to that many, but you're going to run across it, and now you know. So the seller who received domestic water storage tank assistance or is aware that the real property received such assistance and the real property currently still has the domestic water storage tank shall deliver the prospective buyer a disclosure statement. So a little background on that. In 2020, Senate Bill 513 authorized State Water Resources Control Board to provide grants offering interim relief to households in which a private water well went dry or was destroyed due to drought, wildfire, or other natural disaster. The assistance was made available to households indirectly through programs administered by counties, community water systems, nonprofits, local public agencies. I have not run into this personally in my area. I would suspect there are going to be some areas like this. You get pretty far out into wine country and Temecula, and there's a lot of wells that have run dry out there. So, possibly out in that area, if you've run across it, I'd be curious to see what area you're in, if you've heard of this one. But this would be something that's going to be it might have its own form, I'm not sure, or they're just going to put a disclosure requirement on either TDS or SPQ. So that's that one. I'm not going to go through the whole thing, except the exemptions are the same for TDS stuff, probate, bankruptcy, foreclosure, REO, certain trusts. Leasing changes. So these are good to know. I do see a lot of you doing leasing, where you're doing tenant placement services. That is a licensed activity. DRE does audit these. I cannot stress that enough, that the DRE audits this. So if you are doing leasing and tenant placement, this isn't just a complimentary thing you're doing for your client. There is a lot of regulation that comes with this, and you have to be very careful with how you are doing your leasing practices. And we've gone over that in some previous webinars, so I'm not going to dive into that too much, but it's good to know some of these important changes that are coming up if you're doing any type of leasing. So landlord tenant application screening fee and application process. So this starts on January 1st, 2025. Prohibits a practice of charging an application fee to a prospective tenant unless the landlord or agent knows or should have known that the unit is available or will be available within a reasonable period of time. Evidently, there are people out there just taking applications fees for a property that is not available or soon to be available. If that's you, don't do that. Authorize the landlord to charge an application fee under limited circumstances. Either the landlord adopts an application screening process whereby all completed applications are considered as provided in the landlord's written disclosed screening criteria in the order the applications received, or the landlord agrees to return the fee to the applicant who is not selected for tenancy. So I have covered this one on previous webinars, probably 2 or 3 times, to have a strict screening process. And now they're saying a disclosed one, meaning type it out on a form, say, this is our screening process. And it's not a bad idea, because then you can't have a tenant claim discrimination or any fair housing issues if you say this is our screening process. And if they don't qualify for it, then they don't qualify for it. But if it's the same screening process from applicant to property, then if you get audited and this gets asked for, you will have, this will be in your favor that you have a strict screening process. Um, if you're doing leasing, this should be explained to your RPO, your rental property owner, of this is why I do this and why this is important and why you want to pay me a fee for putting a tenant in place because I'm helping you navigate fair housing issues that you may or may not keep up on. A lot of owners think they know and they don't. And it can get you and the owner in big trouble because if you are the leasing agent, you are working on their behalf. And so, therefore, you need to know what the leasing laws are. Otherwise, you're practicing real estate outside of your realm of expertise, which we all know we don't want to do. This is why we don't say that's black mold there. And, yes, that electrical panel is not up to code and stuff like that, because unless you are a contractor, you don't say those kind of things because you don't know, right? You don't have a license to do that. Same thing here. Yes, you can do leasing without getting any type of other license, but if you're going to get into leasing, you have to at least know what the local laws are and help your rental property owner avoid fair housing issues that would also affect you. Um, Credit reports must be provided to the applicant if screening fee is paid, regardless of whether the applicant has requested it or not. This law applies to all residential tenancies of more than 30 days. So we're not talking about Airbnbs, things like that, where it's short term. We're talking about 30 days or more. Um, so this is AB 2493, prohibits a landlord or their agent from charging an application screening fee when they know they should or should have known there was no rental unit available. The provision does not prohibit the landlord from placing prospective tenants on a waiting list, but prevents the landlord from charging an application fee unless they actually have or within a reasonable period of time will have a unit available. This is geared a little bit more towards like apartment owners and things like that. Second, the bill permits the landlord to charge an application fee only if they adhere to either of the following. Again, get a strict screening fee and disclose that, the screening process, put that in writing and let that be known. Other states actually require that. And so now it's looking like we're heading down that way too. So just get that in place and keep it. And as you are talking to your rental property owners, say, here's how I operate. This is why I charge this fee. This helps keep you safe, so on and so forth. And one of those is your screening process. Let's see. If the agent or landlord intends to take application screening fee following criteria 2 above, which is the having the screening process in place, then the law requires that they adopt screening criteria in writing and provide it along with the application. So if you do a lot of this, I would just type one up, put it in your Google Drive or whatever you're going to do, and provide that along with your applications. Let's see, this one here. So this is AB 2747. Tenant may request positive credit reporting. So this is starting January 1st as well. So if you are managing your own properties or if you're going to be doing leasing, you might want to let your rental property owner know about this, that the tenant may request this. So this requires residential landlords to offer each tenant obligated on a lease the option of having the tenant's positive rental payment information reported to at least one national consumer reporting agency. So essentially helping build your tenant's credit. Exempt small non-corporate landlords. So here are the exemptions. Exempts any landlord of a residential rental building that contains 15 or fewer dwelling units unless that landlord owns more than one residential rental building and is either a real estate investment trust, a corporation, or a limited liability company with at least one member corporation. For leases entered into on and after April 1st, 2025, the offer of positive rental payment information reporting must be made at the time of the lease agreement and at least one annually thereafter. For leases outstanding as of January 1st, 2025, the offer of positive rental payment information reporting must be made no later than April 1st, 2025. So a tenant may submit a tenant's completed written election of rent reporting at any time after tenant receives the offer of positive rental payment information reporting from the landlord. I'm not going to go through the whole entire thing, but if you are working with, people who own multiple buildings, you're doing leasing for them, things like that, or if you yourself own multiple buildings with 15 units or more, you may be asked to start reporting the tenant's positive payment history. So, yeah, that's fun. So landlord tenant, so security deposit, move in and move out photos. This is a new one too. This is AB 2801, and this is going to be effective January 1st, 2025. This requires residential landlords to take move in, move out, and post repair and cleaning photos demonstrating deductions. So if this is part of your service as a leasing agent, if you say, you're asking or you're letting your RPO know that, okay, when the tenant vacates, then I'll go and handle that as well. We'll get them we'll get them moved out. We'll do the memo with them, all that stuff. Well, now we're talking about cleaning photos and repair photos. So that will be part of what you will need to do if you are performing that service. Deductions for cleaning and damages must be reasonably necessary to return property back to its original or its initial condition. Professional carpet cleaning and the cost of materials and charges for work performed for repairs is specifically cited subject to this rule. So move in, move out, and post-repair cleaning photos required beginning April 1st, 2025. So not right at the beginning of the year, but a little bit after. The landlord is required to take photographs of the unit within a reasonable time after the possession of the unit is returned to the landlord, but prior to any repairs or cleaning for which the landlord will make a deduction from or claim against the security deposit pursuant to this section. And the landlord is required to take photographs of the unit within a reasonable time after such repairs and cleanings are completed. So it's before, so basically you probably want to take them as the tenants are vacating. I'm going to assume you're going to want those time stamped. And then again, after the repairs are made so that there is proof of what it looked like and now what it looks like after things got repaired. For tenancies that begin on or after July 2025, the landlord is required to take photographs of the unit immediately before or at the inception of the tenancy. In returning the itemized statement of deductions, if a deduction is made for repairs or cleaning, the landlord shall provide the photographs, including the move-in, move-out, and post-repair cleaning photos, along with a written explanation of the cost of the allowable repairs or cleanings. The landlord may provide such photographs to the tenant by mail, email, computer flash drive, or by providing a link where the tenant may view the photographs online. The landlord shall not be entitled to claim any amount of the security if the landlord, in bad faith, fails to comply with these requirements. So a little bit more work for landlords. I think it probably helps them, well, compliance wise, it's good. And also it's going to help them with complaints. because if you have photographic proof of when they moved in, when they moved out, and when the repairs are done, now you have a track record, a photo track record of how the property was taken care of during the time the tenant was there. So it's probably a good thing for owners. I think so. Foreclosures. So we have two more little things to go over, and then we can wrap up. So this was an interesting one. We don't see a lot of foreclosures right now, but they happen. Delivery of the listing agreement extends foreclosure sale by 45 days. So this is AB 2024, and this goes into effect on the 1st of 2025, January 1st. When foreclosing on residential 1-to-4 property, this law requires an additional 45 days beyond the scheduled date of sale if the trustee receives a listing agreement from the trustor or at least 5 business days before the scheduled date of sale. There is an additional postponement right based on the obtaining of an executed purchase agreement. So this prohibits the trustee from selling the property at the initial trustee sale for less than 67% of the amount of the fair market value as well. 45-day postponement based on listing. For residential 1-to-4 property subject to a power of sale contained in any deed of trust or mortgage, the sale shall not be conducted until the expiration of an additional 45 days following the scheduled date of sale when the trustee receives 5 business days prior to the scheduled date of sale, a listing agreement with a California licensed uh, real estate broker to be placed in a publicly available marketing platform such as NMLS, sent by certified mail, USPS, or other overnight mail courier service, with tracking information that confirms the recipient's signature and date and time of recipient and delivery. This postponement may be used only one time, so you can't just keep doing this one. But if you have somebody in a distressed situation, if you work in distressed leads, if you're making phone calls, trying to solicit listings of distressed properties, and maybe they're real far along in the foreclosure process. They've already received notice of trustee sale and things like that. This could be a way for you to at least, kick the can down the road another 45 days to hopefully get a buyer to close this before the foreclosure. Gives you extra time to work at the bank. Maybe you're working out a short sale or something like that. So this is extending the timeline. Just did that one. So I'm not going to go through the whole thing. It is extending the whole timeline though. Swimming pool safety. So this is a good one for taking listings so that if you run across a pool and you see that there are some safety items that are not being adhered to, they're going to come up on the home inspection. They're going to come up on the appraisal as well. We just had one come up a couple weeks ago that the appraiser and the home inspector both called it out. The appraiser called it out. This was conventional financing as well. And the pool did not have a safety mesh fence around it. It was not a fenced in pool, which is okay because they had the other safety measures in place. But one of them was that the side gate into the backyard from the house is supposed to be a self-closer. So it has a spring on it. And if you open it, it closes and latches by itself. That's one of the safety features for having a backyard pool. This one, the spring tension was a little off. It wasn't closing all the way, and the appraiser called it out. So that was, just one thing. So, this is an update. This is for single family properties, goes into effect January 1st, 2025. Revises the requirement for a home inspection of real property with a swimming pool or spa to include in the inspection report the drowning prevention safety features and note if they are in good repair, operable as designed, and appropriately labeled. Pool safety features updated. So since 1998, when a building permit is issued, for the construction of a new swimming pool or spa or the remodeling of an existing pool or spa at a private single-family home, the respective swimming pool or spa must be equipped with one of 5 specified safety features. For properties constructed or remodeled after 2007, the requirement is for the pool or spa to be equipped with at least 2 of the 7 drowning prevention safety features. So this bill, SB 552, revises the elements of 3 specific drowning prevention safety features, including removable mesh fences, pool safety covers, and alarms. So this is going to revise home inspection requirements. So again, we might see this on appraisals coming through. Not just the home inspector, but the appraisers most likely are going to be noting this. Presently, a home inspector providing a home inspection report in a dwelling with a pool or spa must identify which, if any, of the 7 drowning prevention safety features the pool or spa is equipped with, and shall specifically state if the pool or spa has fewer than 2 of the listed drowning prevention. So it looks like it's moving to 3 instead of 2. So updates the requirements of the home inspection to allow that the non-invasive examination of the pool or spa does not require a determination as to whether the pool or spa safety features meet the specifications for pool spa safety features as specified in the HSC, but does require the home inspection report to identify whether the features are in good repair, operable as designed, and appropriately labeled if required. It also requires labels to be affixed to specified pool and safety features, verifying that they meet certain standards. So that's it. I know it's a little dry, but it's stuff we have to keep up on, especially, make note of, especially the leasing and the buyer agency. Those are the 2 big takeaways today. The leasing, if you want to review previous webinars about the leasing, it is serious business. It's not just a courtesy thing. It's not just, hey, pop it up into MLS and no paperwork. Like, we have to have specific requirements on that because DRE will check those, and we've already had agents get audited on them. So keep up on your leasing laws if you're doing that. And the other is the buyer representation agreement. So now it's not just MLS following us around. Now it will be a DRE licensing issue if you do not have one prior to the offer being written. So, I mean, that would be the at minimum is to have that just, included in with your offer at minimum. But if you are a MLS member, a realtor, the NAR rules have not changed. It is still prior to touring a property. So an MLS member prior to touring the property, non-MLS member, if you're showing a property, doing a new home sale or anything like that, yes, they are requiring them. Yes, we just had an agent miss out on a commission because they did not have a buyer rep agreement signed prior to taking the buyer to the new home builder. The new home builder asked to see the BRVC. She went and had it signed by the buyer. She gave it over to the builder. The builder said this is dated after the first visit, and therefore you cannot have a commission. So don't let that be you. Be sure you have that in place prior to clients going to properties, prior to you showing properties. And that's, I guess, all I gotta say about that. So it's definitely getting a little more strict out there. And now, even commercial properties and vacant land and all that stuff is all getting looped in from the state of California. It will be a licensing law now. So no, it didn't get looser. It got more strict with the buyer representation agreements. And they also call it a buyer representation agreement. They don't call it a buyer compensation agreement. So we'll see how that plays out. So, because right now the PSRA isn't necessarily, it's not as strict as the buyer representation agreement. That's more of a compensation agreement. So, yeah, those are the new laws. Well, some of the new laws. if you go into your car.org and you log in there, you can see what all of them are. There was a whole bunch of them. I picked out the ones that kind of pertain to, you know, us on a day to day for the most part. There was more on leasing and some other stuff too. Obviously, again, very dry reading, but you know, we need to know these things. So, any questions, comments, always give me a call or text, and I hope everybody has a great week. We'll talk to you soon.